Hello, 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 and welcome to yet another episode of the Conversation Capital. Given, how you doing? Are you awesome? Thumbs up from Given. Ubonga Bueta, our voice of reason. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am awesome. Thank you. Myself, Ursula Mariadi, the host of TCC. If you haven't liked, shared, and subscribed, stop and do it right now. Today, we're delving into something that I think is super essential, you know, as a life skill, not even as an add-on, something that is critical to life skill. We're chatting all things to do with public speaking, and we've got a lovely guest with us. Vanessa, how are you?
Lovely. I was going to say lovely, and then you described me as lovely. I'm doing well.
Sorry,
thank
I took
you.
Your word.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming through, Ness.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe let's just start at the top. Who is Vanessa Bukasa? Am I saying your surname correctly?
Perfectly.
I say surnames terribly all the time, so I like to get it right.
No, you got it right.
Thank you.
You got it right.
So, Vanessa Bukasa, who is she? What does she do? And then maybe we'll segue into how did you get into public speaking. So, who is Vanessa and what do you do?
So, Vanessa, I am a mom. Mm-hmm. I'm a sister. I'm actually a wonderful human being, I'd love to say.
Lovely. Love it.
I work in the banking industry as a chartered accountant. And in addition to that, I'm also a public speaking coach. So I absolutely love working with corporate professionals and entrepreneurs to really just empower them to use their voice to speak with confidence so that they can make the impact that they want to make.
Yes.
That's what I do.
That's lovely. How did you get into that? I mean, it's a contrast, right? Chartered accountant one side, and then
you'd assume they look at their work.
Yes,
that's what I do. I work long hours. I'm done. Home.
How did you get into that?
And Bonga, it was exactly like that, right? Working the long hours, putting in the effort. But then I got to a point in my career where I felt as though I had reached some glass ceiling. I am working. I'm putting in the effort. I feel like the quality of my work is speaking for me. But for some reason, the promotions are not coming. I'm not leading teams. I'm not leading projects. The things that I want to do, I'm not getting to do. And so I thought that it must be me. It must be that, there's something else that I don't know how to do yet. So if you can name the course, I am there. I went for leadership courses. I went for decision-making courses because clearly I don't know how to make decisions, right? That's why I'm not on the decision table. I went for personal branding. And I got into this loop, this learning loop now, because now I've got all of this information, but I'm not implementing anything. Yes. And when I took a step back, what I realized is that the common denominator in all of these courses, all of these trainings, all of these books that I was reading was the ability to communicate effectively. Because as a leader, you need to communicate. You need to be able to get people to buy into the vision. You need to be able to have difficult conversations. As part of decision making, honestly, if you can articulate a problem, it's already half solved. If we're able to say, this is the issue, it's already half solved. Personal branding. How do you know what I stand up for if I never speak? If I never make my intentions clear? And so I thought, okay, if it's the communication, then that's the skill that I want to work on. That's where I really want to sharpen my blade.
Yes.
And so I decided to start small because I was that person in meetings. I've got an idea, I've got a question, I've got a comment, but the words in my mind, it's like, why are you going to say that? It's so obvious. Everybody knows about it. Like, no need to say that. Or why are you going to ask that question? At your level, shouldn't you know the answer to that question?
Yes.
Or why are you going to share this idea? It's so half-baked. Like, don't even do that. And what I realized is that was actually holding me back. Because if you never speak in meetings, it's almost like you weren't there or you're not even interested.
Absolutely.
And so I decided to start small in the sense that I would even just state the obvious.
Yes.
And what that does is sometimes you say something that most people know, but because you've said it in a different setting, or there's one new person who hasn't heard it, it sparks something different. And now we have different conversations. Now we have new ideas coming up. And so, excuse me, I continued then with just stating the obvious, speaking, earlier in the meeting while I still have my courage. Speaking earlier in the meeting. And as I built up on that, I'm speaking up more, I'm giving my ideas, I started getting noticed. And later on then the promotions came about. I'm leading project teams. I'm part of decision making, all the things I really wanted to do. And when I looked back on that journey, it wasn't necessarily that I got a new qualification or I got new experience. No, it was simply that I was now using this tool that I had, which was effective communication. And so that's how I got into it. I started by coaching myself. And what's interesting is once you've done that and you're seeing it play out, when you're in these professional settings, you can see someone else who's holding back. You can see someone else who's got an idea or who's I don't know if this is the right platform. Yes, this might be a silly question. And I'm like, no, don't start off like that. Don't start off, just share it. Share the idea. And so I thought, okay, public speaking and speaking with confidence has made such a difference to my career. Let me share it. Let me share it with other people. And I started off with my own team at work. I didn't make it too obvious to them that I'm coaching them because they might be like, who asked you? But I would try, push them in the right direction. This meeting that we're going to share this idea, do this, do that. And then I thought, okay, let's expand. It's not just going to be in my little workplace. Let's go out in the world.
Yeah. And so how long ago was that?
Expanding was a year ago. Yeah.
That's really lovely. I love the story because recently, in fact, it was in December, where I read somebody was saying this is one of my 2024 New Year's resolutions, and it was saying it's not the most brilliant person, it's not the most hardworking person, it's the person that speaks up the most, that can sell their work the most. And so as you're saying, I'm like relating so much to 100% how true this is, that sometimes it's just your ability to be like, hey, this is my idea, hey, this is my presence, this is me, I'm here, and because sometimes we miss those opportunities. And like you're saying, I'm definitely that person that starts off with like, I know I'm the junior in the room, but and like, do talk. Just
qualify everything. I could be mistaken, but I don't have much experience, but no, just share it.
Just share it, and life goes on. And if it wasn't the right platform, you'll notice, and then life will go on. But nobody, if anything, you're just gonna get noticed. And at the end of the day, in corporations, they're so big, there's so many people. You're actually really fighting to get noticed. If you really want to climb the ladder in one way or the other.
No, visibility, honestly, it rests on you. It's your responsibility.
So now let's get into the meat of, just that, the public speaking. I might be taking business out of your mouth here, but if you're going to give us a few pointers, starting from what are some of the things that you get into with public speaking? So if somebody's like listening to us saying, I hear you guys are saying, be confident. I hear you guys are saying public speaking is going to get you there. But what are the pointers? Where does somebody start?
So firstly, I think it's just understanding what public speaking is. Because I think when a lot of people hear the words public speaking, they're thinking of a big stage, big audience, everybody's looking at you, lights, action, But anytime you are in a situation where you have a speaker, which is you have an audience, which can be one person or 1,000 people, and you have a message for that audience, then you're in a public speaking situation. So the corridor chats, meetings, a parent-teacher forum, an interview, anytime you are in that situation, you are in a public speaking situation. So public speaking happens so much more than we actually realize.
That's so true.
Exactly. It's not just the big stage. And so when you understand just how much of it happens around you, you're like, wait, maybe I need to take this a bit seriously. Yes, maybe I need to take this a bit seriously. So I think it's quite important, because I've had conversations or interactions that I've walked away from, and I know that I didn't represent myself as I should have. And part of public speaking, part of speaking with confidence, is walking away knowing that, hey, I represented myself well, regardless of the outcome. Because it's not just to say that you're going to speak with confidence and you'll get the job, or you'll get everything. No, but to know that I actually gave it my all. I gave it my best. That was my best foot that I put forward. That's really important, so that you don't walk away with any regrets, like, oh, I should have said this, I should have done that, I should have presented myself better. So I think speaking with confidence, it's this unfair advantage. It really is. Just like you were saying earlier, you get people who get ahead. I mean, sometimes I'm shocked. You get people who get ahead and you're like, how are you here?
Absolutely.
How are you here?
And it's just their ability to sell themselves.
It's their ability to sell themselves, the ability to speak, to engage. I know that there are people, even now in my workplace, where if they're not in a meeting, it almost feels incomplete. It's, oh, Ursula wasn't there. So we're not sure. What would have Ursula said?
Yes, Ursula would have said something.
Yes, Ursula would have said something. So even certain responsibilities that are given to you, you know, Ursula's manager won't be able to make this big meeting, but they have so much confidence in Ursula actually attending, because they know that Ursula's not just going to take everything. She's not going to say, oh yeah, I'm happy with everything that you said. No, she's going to ask questions. She's going to challenge. You might not do it at the level that your manager would have done it, but they know that you're not just going to take things. You're not just going to take things lying down. So it really just it helps you stand out. It really does. I know we love to say things like, oh, I want my name mentioned in rooms that I'm not in. Who's going to mention it?
Who if not you, darling? Yeah. Who are you giving this responsibility to?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if there is someone in that room, you need to have a relationship with that person. How are you building the relationship? Through communication. If you've never voiced your desire to lead a certain project, the people around the decision table, if you're not there, there's no one who's going to say, oh yeah, no, I think Ursula would have done a good job. No, there's no one who's just there punting for you.
That's so true.
Everyone is honestly just looking out for their own.
Yeah.
So if you want the opportunities, if you want to progress, you want the promotions, you want to lead, you want to be part of decision making and not just the executor of all those decisions, you have to use your tool and speak.
And be the person too. Now let's talk practicals. We get nervous. I don't know about you, Bonga. You get nervous, you start shaking. Practically, what do I do? I'm in this situation. I want to start promoting myself. I'm listening to this episode and I'm like, okay, thanks for telling me I need to be more confident, but how? What do I do? What are the tools one can use to enable them to become this speaker, right? Even as you're saying, in the basics, in a parent-teacher meeting, in whatever have you, right? And I'm like, oh, I need to stand up and say something about my friend at a funeral or a wedding. You know, the things that we really, it's critical skill. It's a life skill. You know, and I'm saying, but when I get up there, I start breaking into a sweat. My palms start getting really sweaty. I start shaking. I'm somebody who used to struggle with the shakes. But now I do it so often that, you know, like I'm okay now. But I remember at first I really used to shake quite a bit, right? And so what do I do? And your voice starts trembling. Somebody's listening like, what do I do?
No, and it's normal. Nerves are normal. I think that's so important, because sometimes people think because they're nervous, then they're no longer confident. But you can experience two very different experiences at the same time. You can be nervous and you can still be confident, right? Absolutely. So the way my nerves would manifest was definitely with the shaky voice. And I hated it, because then I sounded like I wanted to cry. Then I rushed through everything because I want to stop sounding like I want to cry. Then I'm upset because I don't want to cry, but I sound like I want to cry.
Now I might actually just cry. Now I actually might just cry.
And then by the time I'm done, I can see on my audience's face that they're not quite sure what I've just said.
Yes.
But thank you. Thank you.
Sit down.
Yeah, we're not quite sure. Something super simple that works and people overlook it is deep breathing. Deep belly breathing. Think about it when you're nervous, when you feel like you're under attack. It's shallow breathing, right? You're breathing with your chest. But deep breathing. And there's one that I really like is the straw breathing. So you breathe in quite deeply. And when you breathe out, you act as though you've got a straw between your lips. And so it takes a longer time for you to breathe out. And that really just helps to calm your body, but also just to let your mind know that you're not in danger. Slowing down when you speak also helps. I mean, even now, I still get nervous, especially with high-stake meetings, right? It's like super senior stakeholders. I'm just like, oh, what questions are they going to ask me? I still get nervous. But when you actually slow your pace down, firstly, you're a lot clearer. So the audience can still get the message. And what I also like to do is just to project my voice a bit more, because you almost tend to like draw yourself in. So you're like shaking and you're speaking a lot softer and you're speeding up. So if you try to do the inverse, it will help. And most times it's just until you get into it.
That's
so it
true.
might be the first few seconds that you're really feeling it, but after a while you actually get into it.
Engaging.
And you start engaging. A mindset thing as well is just to be in a service mindset, because so many times we're just like me. Do I look okay? Do I sound okay? Am I smart enough? Am I this? No. The audience there, when they're looking at
Vanessa,
you,
I love what you're saying. I love what you, because it's so true.
Absolutely. When people are listening to you, it's not for their health. They're literally thinking, what is in it for me?
Yes.
So as long as you give them something clear, you tell them exactly what is in it for them. What did you want them to know? What did you want them to believe? What did you want them to act on? If you are clear on that, your audience is happy. You know, think about it. When you order something online and it arrives at home, are you thinking, oh, is it going to be a tall person? Are they going to have short hair? Are they going to speak funny? No, you're hoping that what you ordered is what is being delivered. And so when people are listening to you, they already have a preconception, okay, this is what this message is about. And if that's what you deliver, that's it. They don't care that your voice is squeaky. They don't care that your voice is too deep. They don't care that you're tall, that you're short, you did your hair like that. No, they really just want to get what you said you were going to give. So if you have that service mindset, it really does help a lot.
Sure. Okay, deep breaths, service mindset. Those are the two main points.
Those are the two main points.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I love both of them, because I can agree with both of them. When I get out of being the face of an event and actually just carrying the event as a job, it goes away.
Yeah.
You know, like nobody's there to like, oh, what is she wearing? Or of course as an MC, but like ultimately carry the event.
Yeah.
We're looking for somebody that's going to take the event from point A to point B and is going to navigate us through the event.
Yeah.
And that's been my saving grace, to like actually see that you're giving yourself way too much credit here.
Absolutely.
People want to know who the next speaker is. People want to know when lunch is. People want to know where the bathrooms are.
Yeah.
That's the MC's job, right? That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to carry the event. That's what a master of ceremonies does. Then it just makes the whole thing significantly smooth sailing. And then another tip I had learned when I first started radio at Tux FM was to, like, I can't remember, like, compresses the diaphragm muscle by like blowing very hard but onto your thumb. So like a deep outward breath.
Yeah.
Almost like you're, I can do it, but I don't know how to describe what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah.
so
Do
blow.
it, everyone.
Yeah.
And like so the trembling that happens at the diaphragm level, right? It really works. It really does work. But you can feel like after you've held that breath for like a good 30 seconds, it like pauses. You know, so it's a really good one just before you go down stage. And I do that one often as well. I also do a lot of like vocal exercises before. This is just to, you know, get my voice in the best condition it can be. And there are many vocal 5-minute tutorials online and stuff that one can get into. We spoke about it before, the hero pose. Whatever you need to do to get yourself psyched, because that nervous thing can stop you in your tracks.
And I like what you said about every interaction is a public speaking event, for the lack of a better word, because that means we have so much more practice.
Yeah.
Maybe now you become more intentional about how you present yourself in any type of setting.
Yeah.
Maybe, or we're not saying be overly formal, but maybe think more deeply about how you speak, or take it as a practice run.
Absolutely.
Or, you know,
Absolutely.
I cannot emphasize how your ability to present yourself in the way you speak in the workplace, or just voicing out how critical it is for your career. What is this mobility? You know, sometimes it's all you need to set your apart, like you said. I think one thing as well, this may be a debatable point, but one thing that will set men and women apart in the workplace, that's part of it. Men are confident to represent any idea of theirs.
Absolutely.
You know, and which will
even
lead
too confident sometimes.
Exactly. Which will help their career projection, because like we said, progression, like we said, you are memorable when you speak. That girl, I remember my career journey has been quite interesting for an early person, because I think it's how I was confident to articulate myself. As I intern, as graduate level as I was, I reminded myself that these are human beings.
Yes.
You know, and what do you have to lose by saying the wrong thing? Of course, if it's not crazy, don't be crazy.
Yes.
You know?
But to be honest, in fact, being a junior is a privilege in itself, that you are actually very much allowed to say the wrong thing.
Exactly.
You know, I actually think it's even more nerve-wracking to be a CEO apotang. What's potang in English? That speaks nonsense, right? So actually, like, holding on to being at the level where people are more forgiving of you.
You're
and
in a learning stage.
You're in a learning stage. And so really embrace that era. When you're new at a job, that is your time to really ask silly questions.
Absolutely.
And really get in there. And I've also seen, like, be prepared for a meeting. Go through the agenda. You know, there are parts where you know you're likely going to talk around there.
Exactly.
What are the points you want to bring out? It's okay to write them down and figure out what you're going to say before. You know, preparation is so essential. I remember my best friend was getting married, and I was going to say a speech. And over a course of a year, I had written notes for the wedding speech. Over a course of a year. And I had them stuck on my wall. And so I remembered which stories I wanted to touch on and how I wanted them to tie together. So by the time the wedding day came, I was so excited. I'd been preparing this thing for over a year. And I killed it. All of you guys that said other speeches, I killed it that day. You know, but just that preparation in itself can give you so much confidence.
It really does.
You know, and it's okay to, like, before you go to the parent-teacher meeting, you want to discuss transport. What do you want to discuss about the transport drop-off and this and that? And, you know, really just figuring out your thoughts in your mind before you get there. Because once you get there and you haven't done that, you're flustered, you're overwhelmed. Maybe you're running late. This and that, that's another thing. Don't arrive late. You know, there's so many factors. Because once you walk in late to a meeting, you start talking too much. It's a problem. You know what I mean? So be on time, things like that. Really just get yourself in the right frame of mind to own the space, own where you're at, and own, you know, the conversation.
And parents, prepare your children for that life. You know,
absolutely.
I did public speaking growing up, and I do not regret it. Like, I believe it's credit to that today you find people who are so brilliant, so amazing, but just that the ability to speak and articulate themselves becomes very difficult because they don't believe they belong there. So many other factors. But start your kids young. Prepare for the doctor visit. What are you going to say? I'm going to say this.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Prepare your kids.
Can you describe your symptoms to the doctor?
Exactly.
You know, and let your child do the talking. Not, he's got a fever.
You're always
your child
speaking
is
on
6.
his behalf.
Let them talk.
Yes.
Let them describe what's going on with my body. You know. Oh, man. This is...
I really like that. And I guess as well, for parents, I think it's so important what you say to your child, because what you say to them, it becomes their inner voice as well.
Absolutely.
So if your child asks you a question, you're like, oh, such a silly question. Then they start thinking, I only have silly questions. You know, but encourage them to ask, encourage them to speak, encourage them to have an opinion.
Absolutely.
I know kids and eating sometimes is a struggle. But if this child says, no, I don't want to eat, you can say, okay, right now you don't want to eat. Let's stop. We'll try again later. But if their words don't mean anything, they grow up thinking that.
They truly believe
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I can say
absolutely.
no and it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I can have a question, but I don't know if it's good enough question to ask. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I love this. And I think I love it because public speaking has personally changed my own life.
Yes.
I think that's why I'm enjoying this conversation so much.
Yeah.
Because it is definitely something that I often look at and I'm just like, if only you could talk better.
Yeah.
Brilliant
Yes.
people where I'm like, if only you invested a little bit in learning
Yeah.
the skill
Yeah.
and getting involved.
Yeah.
And so you talked about self-coaching. What are other resources that you've used?
So I then got my own speaking coach to just take me through the journey. And I think a lot of speaking with confidence, it's also like an internal battle.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not just, oh, project your voice this way, breathe that way. It really is all about your mindset as well. You know, I always say when it comes to confidence, I think people associate confidence with so many things. You know, there's some people think it's a personality trait. There are people who are born with confidence and others that aren't. Some people think if you're an extrovert, then you're confident, but if you're an introvert, you're not. Some people think if you've got high self-esteem, then you're confident. Some people think if you're courageous, then you're confident. I think a lot of those factors might be cousins of confidence, but not necessarily confidence. For me, confidence is trusting that I will do what I said I was going to do. And the more you do that, the more you keep your commitment to yourself, the more you build that confidence. And so working on that was a big thing for me. Really just keeping that commitment to myself. That's what really helped me build my confidence. But other tools I use was definitely books, but seeing people do it, right? Seeing other people do it. But I think the most important is doing it yourself.
Yep.
Because it's a skill, the more you do it, the more you use it, you strengthen it, just like a muscle. And so I had to learn to speak. And it was nerve-wracking at first. I won't lie, it really was. And of course, I said the wrong things. Of course, I asked questions where I could tell the person answering was like, fine. We will answer.
If we must answer, you know, like I'm a decent human being, I must be kind.
Yeah.
But this question is really not. Yes.
But you know what? The earth didn't open up and swallow me.
It didn't.
The ceiling didn't come down on me. I wasn't as silly as I thought. You know, my managers were like, oh, you know what? That was actually an interesting question because I never thought about it from this perspective. Yeah. So I was now, I remember actually I got put on a project. And this was a tech project. I'm not tech, but I was able to articulate the problem in simple terms because the tech people only had tech jargon.
Yeah.
And then the people from my finance team only had finance jargon.
And you could be this middleman.
Yes, I was now the middleman.
Ooh.
I wasn't senior at the time, but I led that project. And mind you, I'm leading senior people here.
Yes.
So, and when I look at that, it wasn't because I'm smarter than anyone else. It wasn't because I understood
But the ability to
exactly,
communicate.
who's doing what. But I knew what the problem was, you know, and I could articulate that in simple terms for both of the different worlds to understand.
I love what you're saying. And I love the part where like just soldier through the bit of embarrassment. Soldier through it.
I read something on LinkedIn that said after interviews, like you can forgive yourself. You
Absolutely.
know, and that reminds me of that because I'm thinking there's an interview where I was asked what was SOP. I mean, I work with that all the time, but I forgot it.
I also know an SOP is like the standard
operation,
protocol or something, but I wouldn't be able to.
So I'm like, how anyone in any field knows SOPs, you know? And I can imagine how I left that interview and they're like, really? That's a basic. Then everything must be a lie if you don't know that, you know. So I was like, and I read that I'm like, yeah, it's okay to forgive yourself. Like forgive yourself for the interview that went terribly. So even in that what is it context, you can forgive yourself for those times when you were still practicing and gathering your courage and whatever.
Yeah.
I worked at Macro as a store announcer. Everybody knows this. And I remember at first when I used to start off, I would recite. So I'd be walking around the store because you're on the floor with the mic and everybody's looking at you.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, R5.99, and then the bread is going to... And like the other staff members would laugh at me. Like, are you practicing? Are you practicing? So you practice before you turn on the mic. I'm saying this because there really was a colored guy that would do that to me. Not that that's how colored people talk. And so, it was such a thing. And I remember just having to soldier through that. And like literally 7 years later, because I did that job for 7 years, I'm so grateful. You can never give me a mic and I'm talking.
Yeah.
I'm a talker.
Yeah.
But it was because of that. But I remember at first, if I had allowed you practicing to get to me, I would have never gotten there.
Yeah.
I allowed myself to look silly.
Yeah.
To practice before, to, like really gas myself up. You could see like I'm like gassing myself up before I start talking. And, I remember like just going through it for like a good 6 months, really going through it and feeling very silly and very small, until eventually you can walk in and be like, I got this. How you doing? And it is just that you need to allow yourself to be small before you can be big.
Absolutely. And just because you start off small, it shouldn't stop you from thinking big or from dreaming big.
Nothing big starts big.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't let it stop you from going towards that goal that you want to get to.
Sure. Thank you so much. I really have enjoyed this chat so much.
Thank
And like I
you.
said, I think it's because I really do believe that public speaking is so essential. And as Bonga's already touched on, the part where we carry our kids into that confidence and really just... So if you didn't think it was important, I hope this episode has emphasized how important and critical it is. It's as critical as learning how to drive. Well, in the South African context, I think people in Europe don't need to learn how to drive. But in the South African context, or, in many places, there's certain things that you just need to... Learning how to swim, ride a bicycle, blah, blah, blah. Public speaking is definitely one of those skills. And so I think the last question I'm going to get into is you speak on encouraging other people. As a speaker myself, I see it with others where I'm like, not like that, but I'm not a coach.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to reach people in a way. So you spoke about how you would encourage colleagues and things like that.
Yeah.
And so how does somebody who sees themselves in a position to sort of help and aid and guide, how do you do that? How do you approach it?
It's a very delicate situation.
Yes.
Right? Because I can't just come to you, Ursula, that meeting, hey?
My ush, my ush.
Shouldn't have. When you said, it's very delicate.
Yes.
So what has helped me in my position is that I started off with my direct team. So when we're having a catch up, I can say, hey, when that manager congratulated us on this work, you gave the merit away. You said, oh, thanks, but it's because of so-and-so that we did well. Oh, thanks, but it's because of somebody else's vision. You never say just thank you, because you did the work. You did the work.
Yes.
So you actually need to be, take ownership, be assertive, own it.
Yes.
And so it started off that way. I guess what also helps is my direct team also knows that I'm a coach. So they know that I'm going to speak to them about public speaking, in that meeting, if this is what you want to put ahead, maybe get straight to the point because of the stakeholders that we have. Yes. These stakeholders are not the type of people who want to know all the detail. Yes. They want to know we are here at A, we're getting to B, and this is how I need your help. That's it. So it was really just helping my direct team and people who would then reach out to me and ask, hey, I've seen you speak up in meetings. How did you do it? Or, hey, I've got this presentation coming up. Do you mind just helping me with it? But yeah, I don't just approach people. Yes. I find as well, it's like planting seeds, right? The soil has to be ready to receive. So if it's not ready, then
Yes. Which was it Mimi Goji, the psychologist that we had, who spoke about not coming into critique when you don't have the bandwidth, like the relationship hasn't given you the bandwidth to do that. So you don't know somebody, you're like, yo, you must eat less, you must exercise, or do we have a friendship, do we have a relationship, do you encourage me when I'm eating a salad? And that then gives you capacity to say, how chummy, why are you eating a whole slab of chocolate?
Yeah.
So in the same way, there's certain things, a relationship that you would form with a colleague that gives you the bandwidth or, the capacity to say, try to say it like this next time.
Yeah.
Try to do this next time. Don't
Absolutely.
come in with your red pen when we barely even greet each other in the corridor.
No, you make a very good point because, I remember one of my managers years ago, but, he played such an important role in my career. I would have presentations, reports that I would submit. And he would come back and be like, what was that? What was that? That was, you know what, you need to redo it.
Yeah.
And on face value, if I tell you that, you might say, what kind of manager was that? Why didn't they, ease you into it? But if I said the same manager knew my husband, he knows when my birthday is, he will say, hey, why are you working? Go,
Go
take
home,
the
go
day
have
off.
fun. Yeah.
He's the same manager who's, very much... who creates like such a psychological safety type of environment that we work in, then you might say, oh, okay, so it actually came from a good place. So the relationship that you have with people really does help when it comes to coaching, when it comes to, helping them correct the path.
Yes. You must have I don't know what the word is. Bandwidth.
Rapport.
Yeah.
You must have some kind of relationship sometimes to present critique. Yeah, I love that. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks so much for taking the time to come and share with us this critical skill. I hope people take it seriously. If you're going to drop one resource that you think people can look at, maybe even your social, but your socials will be down in the description box if people want to reach out to you for public speaking. But any other resource that you're saying, quickly go check out this and this.
Yeah, YouTube is your friend.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And whichever aspect of public speaking that you want, if you want to work on nerves, if you want to work on your storytelling, if you want to work on your posture, honestly, the first 5 videos that you see, you'll learn so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree
So
with
much.
this.
So
Yes.
go for YouTube. You can also find me on socials. I know it's going to be shared, Vanessa _ Bukasa. So I share lots of tips there. I also offer 8-week courses. So we go on a journey for your public speaking. I like it because it's quite personalized. You get people who just want to work on their nerves, other people who really want to work on their presentation, other people who really want to work on the ability to sell. And so we work on that throughout the 8-week speaking course.
And I believe that you've got a book.
I do have a book. It's called Speaking with Confidence, The Secret Sauce to Success, because that's exactly what it is.
And in
Right.
whatever industry, hey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever
You're selling,
industry.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
How do people get a hold of that book?
On my page, on my Instagram page, you click in the link and you can order it. It's delivered nationwide. Yeah.
Okay, sure. I'm inspired.
Thank you.
When are you writing a book? When are you writing a book? Thank you so much. I'm so
Thank you so much,
inspired. Thank you for
Ursula.
your
I had
time.
a wonderful time.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much.
We really appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Bonga.
Public speaking, that was today's episode of The Conversation Capital. Leave your comments below, tips and tricks. How did you get over, your public speaking woes and nerves and this and that? What is it that you do? Do you hero pose? Do you take deep breaths? Give us tips, guys. Public speaking is a critical skill that we all need to know. So we're looking forward to those comments. Don't forget to also reach out to Vanessa Bukasa herself on socials. But for now, though, this is today's episode of The Conversation Capital. Welcome my public speaking skill. Kiai hula.
Hey.
Kiai.
Yay.
For now, though, goodbye and God bless.